So, Kristen, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. Now, for everybody watching, Kristen is a TV reporter at WMUR New Hampshire, and we met in a group called Media Bloggers, which is people in the media who also blog. And I wanted to talk to Kristen because she's got a ton of experience. I guess, what do you call it? Exploiting a career, a media career outside of the traditional media?
There's no better way to say it. There's no better way to say it. You nailed it. Exploiting a career in a lane outside of traditional media. Absolutely.
Okay, before we get to that, tell us about the traditional media and just tell us like where you started. Because as a former reporter, I like to hear like how people climb the ladder because we always start in one place. That's like terrible, but it's the best experience, and then you slowly move your way up to where you are now. So tell me your growth in the traditional media industry.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Christina. This is so cool. It's a great way to start the new year. And, of course, this is one of our favorite topics. So to dig right in, I went to journalism school. I got my degree in journalism, and I moved to New York. I can say in retrospect, I don't know if that was the best decision to make. I don't regret it. But I moved to New York, which we know is the #1 media market. And I couldn't find a job to save my life. And so I ended up doing what most reporters do, which is to go to a small market. And so I left New York after being there for a few years. And I went to a small market in Abilene, Texas, called KTXS. And I started out as a one-man band, which means you shoot your stories, you edit your stories, you write, you are self-contained packages. And so I did that for a year, got some amazing experience, and actually won my first journalism award for a story, a special report that I did at that station. And so it was real grunt work in a small market where you have to get to know everybody, you're working around the clock, and you're just trying to do your best to basically, as they say, cut your chops. So then when I got back to New York, I had what I needed to get the job in New York. And I was able to do that at a station called News 12, which is a hyper-local station in New York. I was able to get a job there as a general assignment reporter. And now have moved to the Boston metro area, and now I'm at WMUR in Manchester, New Hampshire.
You know what's funny about your story? My first station, my first market was at News 12, but I was News 12 the Bronx. You were News 12...
Westchester,
which is what, Connecticut, right?
That is, what would you say? Westchester, New York. So it's not Connecticut. It's like Mount Vernon, Yonkers, Rockland County. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, and I was News 12 the Bronx, and then from there, I was there a very short time. I did not like it. I did not like being, like, it's crazy doing news in New York and driving around. Like, forget, like, doing news is crazy. Driving in New York is crazy. So when you put the two together, like, I was not having fun. So from there, I went to Beaumont, Texas, which is a city, I'm sure, a lot like Abilene, Texas.
Like Abilene, Beaumont was one of the places that I looked, yes.
Yeah, because it's like market, I think, Abilene, it's like, I know Beaumont was like market 162. Do you remember what Abilene was?
164.
Yes! That's why I love hearing these stories. They're all like so similar.
It's so funny. And I mean, and right, and when you talk to enough of us, it's like we all have that same started from the bottom and now we're here story.
Yes, I know, that's so funny. Okay, so that's your traditional media story, which is awesome, but you still have some side hustles and something that you and I have talked about briefly, which I think would be beneficial and help a lot of entrepreneurs to hear, is how you created your own production company. So kind of tell me when you did that, why you did it, and how you did it. Like, were you working in news when you did this?
I was. After I got back from Texas and made it back to New York and started creating this production company. And I felt so strongly about it because it's important still to be able to tell your own stories. I feel it's important to be able to tell your own stories. It's important to create content. And you don't have sole control over that when you work in the traditional media. That's something you have to go and create. It's something you have to be entrepreneurial about. You know, when you, a lot of times when you see a job description at the traditional media station, they say be enterprising. Well, for me, it's also being entrepreneurial, but doing that in a space where I can create content and where I can, you know, be a part of the process. So that is what I did in creating the production company. And so through that, I created the flagship show, The Positive Controversy, and released a 6-episode season of a web show which dealt with topics that I felt like kind of fall under the radar.
Okay, so before you go into that, when I think of a production company, I think of like somebody that's going out and shooting and editing video for other people. This was just your thing, right? It was your own production company. You wanted to basically do what you were doing in news, but just do it for yourself and tell stories you wanted to tell the way you wanted to tell them without a boss or an editor or a producer telling you how to do it, right?
Yeah, well, and I actually have a team. So we do have, I'm an executive producer, but another executive producer. I have some other, I would say, content contributors who help me put together the content that we're going to film and that we're going to find guests to interview about. So I do have kind of like an editorial board.
Okay.
Because I don't think even though you're self-contained, I don't think I know it all myself. And there's some other great minds that I respect. And, once we put our heads together, we come up with something great. But it's coming from me.
Right.
It's coming from something that I want to do.
Okay, so you say you have a 6-episode series and you put it online. Like, how do you put a series online? Like, I don't understand the process. Like, I know how you can create video and tell the story, but then from doing that to getting it online for other people to consume, like, how do you do that?
I threw it on YouTube.
Okay.
It didn't have any major distribution. I didn't have any big deals or anything like that or any major funding, so I put it on YouTube.
Okay, and then how did you promote it? How did people find it?
They found it through my website. They found it through sharing small clips of the episodes. They shared it through other people sharing. They found it through our guests. We were actually a feature in a film festival. We were a feature show in a film festival, so that was another way that we gained a platform for people to find out about the show. So
you were promoting yourself. You were working as your own reporter. While you're working as a TV reporter, you're working as your own reporter and your own publicist to promote what you were doing.
Yes.
That was a lot of work.
That was a lot of work. It's still a lot of work.
Are you monetizing Pope Productions?
So it's not profitable yet. We're going into our 3rd year as a production company, and it's not profitable yet, mainly because we have not secured distribution, nor advertising, nor sponsorships, nor profitable sponsorships for the show yet. And that's really the goal this year, is to monetize. There are digital channels that will subsidize, pay for some of the production costs and things like that. There's advertising, there's cross-promoting. There's a lot of different things that, honestly, when I started, I just didn't know about. I am, as a journalist, very good at creating a product, having an idea, writing it up, putting it together. But the business part of it was something that I really kind of been learning through trial and error, asking other people, seeing other people's businesses and how they operate. So the way that I make money through Pope Productions now is just by doing small projects for people. I have my own studio equipment, camera, tripod, microphone, lights, and all that stuff. So I can do, small projects, but through the show, which is really where most of my resources are going, that still needs to become profitable.
Okay, so what are you going to do then to monetize it? Because I think a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, they want to use video, which you should be using video because that's what everybody is consuming online. Or they have this thing that they spend a lot of time doing, a lot of money goes into it. And they're like, okay, so how do I monetize this? Now I need to find a way to make money. So specifically with Pope Productions, with you being a journalist, aside from your full-time gig, how are you going to monetize? What are your steps? What are your goals and strategies this year for Pope Productions?
So this year it is to put together a plan to pitch the show to different networks, both digital and television, to secure advertising and to secure sponsorship. That is the way that we are planning this year to monetize the show.
Okay, and tell me a little bit about the show, because you said, because if you're going to pitch it to different people, you know, you obviously have a specific target niche, and you mentioned the show is a little unconventional.
Yes. So the show is mixing social, cultural, and comedy. And it's a variety show. So it starts out with a skit. You'll see this in the second season, which is going to debut this year. But it starts out with a comedy skit that really takes the steam off of a tough topic, or a topic that could be a little bit serious. So it starts out with a skit, and then we go into a one-on-one conversation with an expert in whatever the topic is. And then from there, we flow into a panel discussion. And at the end, there's a performance, some kind of creative performance at the end. And so it's for the niche audience. It's for people who love cultural, social conversation with comedy.
Okay.
You know, with making it light. It's, my husband has, he often quotes, a little bit of sugar makes the medicine go down. And I think it's true. Some of the toughest conversations I've seen happen on places like The Daily Show and The Stephen Colbert Show. You know, they do it in satirical format. They do it with a little bit of comedy, but it's still, these are still pretty tough and hard-hitting topics, but they just don't beat you over the head with it. So that's along the lines of the show.
Okay, I like it. And where can people find the show?
They can find it on YouTube, The Positive Controversy with Kristen Pope, hashtag Positive Controversy. You can find it everywhere: Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and then also on my website, of course, KristenLPope.com.
Okay, and just before we go, one last thing, because you brought up comedy. Tell me about what you are doing in the comedy field and how you got into it.
Woo! So comedy. I have entered the world of stand-up comedy.
Which is like, people say that's the hardest thing ever.
I need a drum roll. I need like a drum beat for that. Yes, stand-up comedy, like legit. I've been getting on stages in Boston since August as a stand-up comedian. It's really, really, really amazing. And I'll just tell you how this all came about. So in 2015, I hosted an 8-hour-long TEDx talk. And I guess, I mean, that's only one I've done. So I guess that's about how long they are. You have like 15 to 17 speakers. They talk for 8 to 15 minutes. And in between that, I was hosting, bridging the gap, bridging the talk, transitioning speakers. And by the end of it, I had random strangers, and enough that it kind of made me think, what are these people, what's going on, telling me or asking me if I was a stand-up comic. And I'm like, no, I'm not a stand-up comic. And
I'm a reporter.
I'm like, no, why would you think that? And part of me thought, comedians, that's a real job. I'm a journalist. I know that, you know a good comedian from a bad one. So I know that's a real legit job. And enough people came up to me and were like, well, you should try it. You should give it a shot because you're funny. That after about a year of nudging and kind of sitting with that, I thought, you know what do I have to lose? Let me just give it a shot. So a great girlfriend of mine who is an amazing writer, extremely funny, said, let's just do it. Let's get on stage and let's just do one stand-up and see how it goes. So we did. And I got really good response and really good feedback. And honestly, I loved it. I've been a performer as growing up and in different spaces throughout my life, weaving through journalism. I've been a performer. And so I really love the thrill of performing. I love that it is completely outside of the box of journalism. Completely. I mean, you really, really have to be creative to make somebody laugh. And so it is as unorthodox as I could ever imagine, but it is some of the most fun I've ever had.
That is so random. I mean that in a good way.
It is, but it is. It's like I am a journalist by day and moonlighting as a stand-up comedian at night.
That's funny. I love it. Okay, so you do a lot outside of traditional media. If you had, we'll finish with this. If you had advice for people who want to grow a career in media, but not traditional media, they still want to be their own boss. Maybe they want to promote their business. If they want to grow what they're doing in the media, like you have, with Pope Productions and I mean, I guess stand-up comedy, you're still kind of in the media because you're still getting media attention and you can promote online and all of that. What would your advice be?
One is to get started. If you haven't started, it's just to get started.
Yeah.
You just got to go for it. Some things you just are going to learn along the way. And trial and error is not a bad thing. If you can afford it, trial and error is not the worst thing in the world. And then also content is king in this world. The person who has something to produce or something to package and something to put out there, people are looking for content. A lot of stations, a lot of distribution companies, a lot of platforms are looking for people who are already prepackaged that they can acquire. A lot of places today, they're just looking for something to acquire. They're not looking to actually create it on their own. Mm-hmm. And so if you're already out there creating some sort of video content, some sort of, thought leadership, some sort of funny anecdote, somebody is looking for it. Somebody's looking for it. And so I have learned that. I learned that with the first season of The Positive Controversy. People just want content. I had one production company come to me and acquire 2 of the episodes for network television. I had another couple of conversations. They didn't pan out, but 2 more conversations with distribution companies because people are looking for content to place on their platform. So creating content and getting it out there in wherever your audience is, whether that's Snapchat, you've got people creating those little vignettes on Instagram that are getting, millions of hits now, Facebook millions of hits, and people then pick those personalities up and put them on, mainstream media. So create the content.
Create the content. Don't be afraid to fail. That's how you learn, and just keep on going.
And just keep on and stay the course. Stay the course. The person who stays the course, you could be right at the brink of the deal that you need, right at monetization. But if you quit, you'll never know.
Yeah.
So stay the course. Don't quit your day job if you can't afford to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. Actually, stand-up comedy helps me as a journalist. Being a journalist helps me as an on-stage performer. We do live television. Mm-hmm. So it is being able to do live television helps me on stage.
Oh, for
sure. It gives me a leg up as a stand-up comedian. So if you can't afford to do it yet, don't quit your day job, but give it a couple of hours every single day, stay the course, and keep putting it out there.
That's great advice. Okay, so for more, people can go to KristenLPope.com.
Yes, KristenLPope.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you so much, Christina.